It's Thursday, the 18th of April, 2024. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 stories, 5 minutes. Let's get going. Story number 1, with the cost of living crisis in full swing, the competition watchdog, motoring groups and the energy companies are pushing to improve transparency on petrol prices. And Sydney fuel prices have peaked, but motorists in Brisbane and Melbourne should expect higher prices within a fortnight.
Bad news if you live in those cities. Sydney's petrol prices are significantly higher than other major cities, NRMA data showed this week, and the motorist group accused service station owners of massively overcharging. About 40% of service stations in Sydney were charging $2.35 per litre, the data showed, well above the $1.87 wholesale price, according to the Fin Review. The average price of regular unleaded petrol in Melbourne sits around $1.96. Now, both Viva, which operates Shell stations, and Ampol have denied their price gouging. They say the higher prices are linked to operating costs and market cycles. A Viva spokesperson said Sydney is 1 to 2 weeks ahead of Brisbane and Melbourne in the cycle, and the harbour city peaked over the weekend. That means the peak's still to hit Melbourne and Brisbane. If you're like me and wonder why prices jump sharply and take ages to drop, there is an answer. Fuel prices go through 4 to 6 weeks price cycles. Prices drop 1 to 2 cents per litre per day until the end of the cycle, and in one go they jump about 40 cents a litre. That's according to the ACCC.
Sean, the bottom line for many listeners, and I suppose for me as well, should I fill up now or should I wait? Do you have an answer to this?
Well, I defer to the competition watchdog's latest words of wisdom on this. It's general advice only, a guide, and one of their main tips is when buying in one of the capital cities, buy on a weekday, particularly Monday, Wednesday or Friday at around midday. Shifting onto the major cities, Sydney's prices are peaking. Use an app to find where the cheapest petrol is. Melbourne prices are on the rise too, so you'll need to look hard to find cheap petrol. Mind you, buying petrol for under $2 a litre in Melbourne is still the norm. Brisbane prices are rising. Motorists are paying on average around $2.10 a litre. In Adelaide, prices are around the lowest point of the cycle, about $1.88 a litre, so fill up now. Perth is a bit of a world unto itself. Its fuel cycles are much shorter. Use an app.
Story number 2, Sean. The Department of Defence will be given an extra $50 billion over the next decade, reflecting what Minister Richard Marles called the most challenging strategic environment since World War II.
It means by 2024, spending on the nation's military will rise to about 2.4% of GDP. Lots, not quite as much as health or social security, those sorts of things. Yesterday, Mr. Miles released a new national defence strategy which sets out a plan to defend Australia from long-range attacks. It includes money for undersea warfare, including nuclear subs and underwater drones, money for new surface ships, guided weapons, missile defence, etc. Basically, it needs to modernise the Defence Force.
Story number 3 is an interesting one, Sean. What to do with planes that no longer fly? It's been a challenge for airlines for decades. And now Qantas and other carriers have created a coalition with the goal of using old parts in new planes.
Qantas wants to hit net zero by 2050 and needs to accelerate its supply chain decarbonisation efforts. It's among 6 aviation groups from across the world that have launched the Aviation Circularity Consortium, an alliance of organisations looking to create value from the 8,000 end-of-life retired aircraft just sitting around the place in open spaces around the world. That number's set to hit 11,000 in the next decade. According to Qantas's Chief Sustainability Officer, Andrew Parker, there's a lot of untapped potential in high-value materials from retired aircraft. In fact, 90% of an aircraft is capable of being recycled and used in the manufacturing of a new product.
Turning overseas for story number 4, Sean, the world's largest luxury brand, LVMH, has reported its weakest quarterly sales growth since the pandemic recovery as Chinese sales slowed and champagne turnover fell.
Yes, LVMH said that like-for-like sales in Asia, excluding Japan, basically China, fell 6% in the 3 months to the end of March. Revenues in the US and Europe grew about 2%. Sales in Japan were really strong. That's because of that weak yen. According to the Financial Times, the company, which is controlled by the family of billionaire Bernard Arnault, is considered a bellwether for the sector because of its size and influence. Sales growth at top brands Dior and Louis Vuitton was around 2%. Turnover in watches and jewellery was lower, but it was the wines and spirits division. They were the weakest performers. The main culprits for the downturn in that segment, champagne and Hennessy Cognac.
Story number 5, last one, Sean. Barbie, the movie, was released 9 months ago, made $1.4 billion at the box office, and the mania just keeps on going with Kraft Heinz now announcing the release of Barbiecue sauce.
And it is pinkish, as is the packaging, and it's been launched in the UK and Spain, but demand from Australia means that it may be launched locally. According to a story on Bloomberg, it's Heinz vegan mayo with barbecue sauce. It's a limited offer. 105,000 bottles are available in the UK, 12,000 in Spain. Barbie really has been a boom time for Mattel, maker of the doll, with sales jumping after the movie's release in July last year. In fact, in that September quarter, Mattel announced sales of almost $2 billion. It's now pushed out into all sorts of other things. We're having barbecue sauce. How about some ketchup, Michael?
Well, you know it's coming, don't you? It just has to. The pressure will
to.
be too great. There we go, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Thursday, the 18th of April, 2024. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't enough, then you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.